Welcome back to the final segment of today's program on the Taiwan Outlook. I'm your host, Wu Ruiguo. In this segment, we will continue our conversation with Professor Zhao Chien-Min, who is the Deputy Minister of the Mainland Affairs Council. Professor Zhao, we understand, as you said, since May of 2008, there's been a lot of progress in cross-strait relations, ranging from transportation, commercial transactions, cultural exchanges, and now possibly media cooperation. Certainly, there's been some preliminary discussions, at least at the think tank level, between the two sides, that eventually we may need to discuss politically sensitive issues. What is your perspective on that? Primarily as a scholar or as a long-term specialist on cross-strait relations.
Eventually, of course, I think there are still fundamental problems existing between the two sides, and we need to face those fundamental issues sooner or later. But the key word is sooner or later, and right now I think it's
later than sooner.
Right, rather be later than sooner. Yes. Why? Because it takes time. When it comes to the thorny political issues, we understand won't be easy. We are not afraid of them. We are ready to talk to the other side with any issue, anytime, any issue. We are not afraid. But the problem is that once the political negotiation process is activated, then we have to face the possible consequences.
Exactly.
What are the consequences? It's going to take a long time. And other issues that we have in mind, the more practical issues, those issues will benefit us directly, will not be able to, will be just pushed off the agenda, and we don't want that to happen because you may take it 2-3 years without getting anywhere if you want to talk about the current political status between the two sides. But on the other hand, we think currently there is a kind of temporary modus vivendi the two sides have already agreed upon, which is 1992 consensus. We don't mind about the China issue. But what we have been saying is that one China with different interpretations.
Exactly.
Actually, the term China was included in any national designation first by my government, by the ROC, not the PRC. So we have no trouble in saying we are China, and we don't mind stating our position on that. But we think this provisional agreement is good enough for now. There's no need, there's no hurry to rush into the next stage. And while in the meantime we have many other things we have in mind. But we don't mind if the academia and the think tanks from the two sides talked about some of the issues, issues such as how to build the military confidence building measures. That we don't mind, if it's carried out by the private sector, the academic world, or the track to think
dialogue,
tanks. Should be okay. How the two sides can cooperate in order to reduce the tensions in the Taiwan Strait area. This is the most welcome.
And we also know that a few weeks ago, a leading think tank here in Taiwan, its chairman, which is also a very good friend of ours, openly stated there might be 3 conditions that need to be met before the two sides discuss political issues. One is, of course, we get the financial MOUs and ACFA signed. The second one being that there is domestic consensus within Taiwan on political negotiation with China. And the third is the international reaction needs to be favorable to such talks. And do you think, in your capacity as a scholar, do you think that these are the issues pretty much identify the general parameters that whenever that political negotiations happen, those will have to be followed by both sides?
Those 3 conditions are certainly very important ones. And I'm sure they have to be met before we move forward. But I tell you right now, it's not the government's position. No.
Okay.
The government's position is that it's not time. It's premature to talk about any political negotiation. Because I think the president made that very clear for a number of times. Before his first term ends in 2012, no such talks are possible. That remains true. In other words, in the meantime, from now leading to 2012, I think our priorities still remain in the easier issues such as economic or those issues related to how to facilitate exchanges between the two sides and how to enhance Taiwan's competitiveness and so on in the economic sector, in the educational sector, in the cultural sector, and so on. And how can we promote Taiwan's experience as a Taiwan model, as a democracy, our economic model, and so on. Those are our priorities. And political issues are simply not there.
Not the priority issues.
Yes.
Then, Professor Chao, we look ahead to the year 2010. Certainly, one of the things that people are going to be looking out for on the Cross-Strait agenda is the possible signing of ECFA. Besides ECFA, what will be other developments that you see likely to happen in the year 2010?
Because we have been talking about cross-strait relations in the bilateral setting, which is certainly very important. However, we also need to discuss cross-strait relations in a multilateral setting, which we are I'm talking about international setting. And Taiwan's international visibility and the international participation, international space is very important. If you see any public opinion surveys, they will tell you that Taiwanese people rank our international space prior than improving of relations with Mainland China. So my government understands this fully. So it's also our priority, one of our very priorities. This year, in the past 1 year and a half, we have been fortunate enough to make some headway there. We have been, made some progress so that our international space has been widened somehow. In the future, in the next year, right now we have singled out the two more international organizations. Both are UN, United Nations affiliated organizations that we like, we've been included. The first is UNFCCC. This is the United Nations Conference Framework Conference on Climate Change. This is very important because you understand climate change has become a global issue, and every country has been talking about it. Yes. And Taiwan, we cannot afford not to be included because if you talked about climate, there's no border. It's there's no border. Climate is your climate. This is my climate. This is worldwide. It is global climate. So we very much would like to be included. And the second organization is the International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO. And we figure that if we take this to our friends in the international community, including Mainland China, it won't be
much of a problem.
It will be very hard for them to say no to us. So Taiwan, you don't have to be included in this international climate change conference. It won't be easy for Mainland China to say such a thing, especially when the relations between the two sides are improving. So we have a reason to believe that these selections are very realistic, and we have there are chances that we might accomplish the goals.
And then let me dig a little deeper. And Deputy Minister, what will be the objectives for Mainland Affairs Councils next year? In terms of making more breakthroughs or maintaining Taiwan's relations, the positive momentum with China in the year 2010.
We would like the tensions in the region continue to be reduced. Right now, Chinese military deployment is still a problem. It's a pretty good, big problem. We like to remind once again Mainland China to address this issue. Secondly, we like the relations to be gradually normalized. It has not been normalized, relations. By normalization, I mean, for people, Taiwanese people, if we want to go to the other side, we can do that like a normal people.
Yes.
We can do business like a normal people. If our business people are hurt there in mainland Chinese China, they can be taken care of by my government. My government will be in a position to extend helping hand and so on.
Exactly.
This is very important. In other words, to build a more institutionalized relations between the two sides, and to further consolidate the institutionalized channel of discussions and dialogue and negotiations between the two sides. Those remain our top priorities.
Good. Finally, Professor Chao, you and I have been friends for many years. Certainly you being a leading scholar on China affairs in Taiwan at the National Zhenji University, and now you being a very outstanding government official in the Mainland Affairs Council. How do you like the two roles that you have played in your career, and which is your preference?
Well, it's really very different
of course.
roles. Being a scholar, I enjoy all the freedom. And I enjoy writing, being innovative, writing things so that I can take to to other scholars from around the world and to promote and to sell my ideas.
Yes.
And I enjoy it tremendously. And I think I did a satisfactory job.
You're too modest.
Well, right now, as a government, part of the government, I think the reason I agreed to the
serve.
job, is because I think there's a need for my service. I consider this as a part of the responsibility each individual citizen is required to fulfill.
Of course.
And I think the cross-strait relations are at a historical juncture. I think there's a lot we can do over this side, and I think there's a lot they can do over the other side. I think jointly, I think Taiwan, my country, might be benefited. I'm sure it has already been benefited as a result of better relations between the two sides.
Of course.
And I'm honored to be part of that process.
Yeah, 30 seconds, Professor Chao. What would be your word of advice for people who want to be involved in government service?
Don't try.
But I understand that you have to sacrifice a lot in your personal life, your family life.
Politician in Taiwan is, I think, one of the most difficult jobs in the world.
Exactly. Yeah, but I certainly think the government is very fortunate to have your service in the government in the past 18 months and continue. However long that you would like to remain. Thank you very much, Professor Chao, to be on the program. I wish you all the best in the year 2010.
Thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank you for watching our program. I'll see you next time on Macroview Television. Thank you.